Welcome back to our channel. In this video, we reveal some of the most valuable coins in the world. Coins that collectors and investors are willing to pay thousands or even millions for.
What if the next time you reach into a drawer, a coffee can, or that forgotten box in the garage, you pull out a single coin on a broken bar and it quietly changes your financial future forever? Stay with me, because today we're talking about the 2006 South Dakota $quarter, an ordinary-looking coin with an extraordinary story, and an error so rare that collectors whisper about it like a legend. Some call it luck, others call it timing, but in the numismatic world, it's called opportunity. And here's the question you should be asking yourself right now: what if you already own one and don't even know it? At first glance, the South Dakota quarter feels familiar. Mount Rushmore, George Washington, clean, patriotic, proudly American. You've probably seen it 100 times, maybe even spent one on a cup of coffee without a second thought. And that's exactly where the danger lies, because history's most valuable coins rarely announce themselves. They hide in plain sight. Coins like this don't shout, they wait. They wait for the right eyes, the right knowledge, and the right moment. And for some collectors, that moment has meant life-changing money. Yes, we're talking about a coin error so significant that market conversations have reached figures as high as $935,000. Pause for a second. That's not a typo. Now before you think, come on, it's just a quarter, let me stop you right there. That reaction right there is exactly why these coins slip through hands unnoticed. Think about it. If treasure were obvious, everyone would be rich. But rarity rewards the informed, not the distracted. And here's a quick pattern interrupt for you: if quarters were boring, Hollywood wouldn't have made movies about hidden treasure. So why are real-life collectors quietly paying fortunes for them? That's where our story truly begins. In 2006, the U.S. Mint produced millions of South Dakota quarters as part of the state quarters program. Everything seemed routine until it wasn't. Somewhere between design, striking, and quality control, a rare error emerged. Not the kind you notice instantly, but the kind that seasoned collectors lean in close to examine, their pulse quietly speeding up. Subtle misalignments, striking anomalies, and die-related errors turned what should have been a 25-cent coin into something far more powerful, a tangible asset in extreme demand. Here's where excitement meets urgency. Error coins are not repeatable. Once discovered, once confirmed, once absorbed into private collections, they effectively vanish from the open market. And that scarcity fuels desire. Collectors aren't just buying metal, they're buying history, exclusivity, and status. When a confirmed 2006 South Dakota quarter error surfaces in exceptional condition, the room changes, conversations drop, offers rise, and suddenly, a coin that once jingled in someone's pocket becomes the centerpiece of negotiation tables and auction headlines. And let's add a little humor to reset the room, because this part always makes people laugh nervously. Imagine explaining to your family that the quarter they used to scrap ice off the car windshield could have paid for the car itself. Funny? Yes. Painful? Absolutely. And that fear, that quiet fear of having missed out, is exactly what pushes collectors to act fast when the opportunity appears again. What drives values this high isn't just rarity, it's competition. High net worth collectors don't wait. They don't hesitate. When a verified example enters the market, demand accelerates, and price becomes secondary to ownership. That's how numbers climb into the hundreds of thousands. That's how legends are born. And here's the cliffhanger you should hold on to: experts believe undiscovered examples may still exist, sitting untouched in old collections, inherited coin jars, or forgotten estate boxes across America. Now we arrive at the most important part of this story, your part. Because knowledge without action is just entertainment. If you're watching this, you're already ahead of the crowd. You understand that wealth doesn't always come from working harder, sometimes it comes from looking closer. The 2006 South Dakota quarter era has become a symbol of that truth. It represents how awareness can turn everyday objects into extraordinary opportunities. The current market buzz around valuations approaching $935,000 has created a sense of urgency unlike anything seen in modern coin collecting. Serious buyers are watching, dealers are searching, auction houses are listening, and every year, the number of available verified examples shrinks. This is not a market that waits for hesitation. It rewards decisiveness. It rewards those who act before the headlines, not after. Here's the final question, and don't answer it lightly. If you discovered that a small, overlooked object in your possession could unlock financial freedom, generational security, or the lifestyle you've worked decades to achieve, a broken bar when you ignore it, or when you take the next step with confidence and authority, because history shows us something powerful. The people who live wealthy lives are not always the luckiest, they're the most prepared. And as we close, remember this: the greatest fortunes are often hidden behind ordinary appearances. Somewhere, someone is holding a 2006 South Dakota quarter right now, unaware that it could rewrite their future. The only difference between that person and the one who cashes in is awareness and timing. Stay curious, stay alert, and above all, never underestimate the power of a single coin. What if I told you that one small coin quietly sitting in a drawer, a jar, or even your pocket has been connected to values approaching $954,000? Not a painting, not gold bars, a single 1999 Georgia quarter dollar. Now pause for a second, a broken bar, because if your brain just said, "That sounds impossible," congratulations, this is exactly where most million-dollar stories begin. In 1999, Americans were busy celebrating the new millennium, watching Y2K headlines, and spending pocket change without a second thought. And while the world wasn't looking, the U.S. Mint released the Georgia State Quarter. Simple, familiar, and dangerously underestimated. Here's the uncomfortable truth: some of the most valuable coins in American history were ignored for years, a broken bar because they looked ordinary. And yes, people spent them, people lost them, and people laughed at the idea that they could ever be worth real money. Humor me for a second: how many coins have slipped through your hands without a second glance? Exactly. Now imagine the moment someone discovers that the quarter they almost tossed into a parking meter isn't worth 25 cents, a broken bar, but a life-changing sum. That moment is where excitement meets fear. Fear of missing out, fear of already having lost it, and excitement because a broken bar. What if you still have it? Stay with me, because this story only gets more intense from here. The 1999 Georgia quarter wasn't supposed to be special. That's what makes it dangerous. When errors happen at the U.S. Mint, they don't announce them. They slip quietly into circulation, blending in like wolves in sheep's clothing. Certain Georgia quarters struck in 1999 carry rare minting anomalies, errors so subtle that only experienced eyes recognize them, yet so significant that elite collectors compete aggressively to own them. And here's where things turn serious. High-profile private sales and collector demand have pushed documented error examples into jaw-dropping territory, reported valuations climbing toward $954,000 for exceptional specimens. Let that sink in. A quarter, nearly $1 million. At this point, the question isn't, is this real? It's, why wasn't anyone looking sooner? Collectors don't chase coins like this because they're common. They chase them because supply is microscopic and demand is relentless. And once these coins are locked away in private collections, they rarely reappear. That's how wealth quietly moves from the unaware to the informed. And if you're still watching, you're already on the right side of that equation. Quick reality check: this is usually where someone says, "Well, I probably don't have one." Funny thing, every major discovery starts with someone saying exactly that. The difference between those who win and those who watch others win a broken bar is action and timing. And speaking of timing, here's the cliffhanger. Because the most shocking part of this story isn't the value, it's how close you might already be. Right now, thousands of Americans unknowingly hold old state quarters passed down from parents, stored after moves, forgotten in safety boxes, or inherited without inspection. These aren't just coins, they are silent assets. And in today's market, where tangible, Historical items are exploding in demand. Coins like the 1999 Georgian quarter are being reevaluated by serious money. Here's the urgency no one likes to talk about. As awareness spreads, the window narrows. Once collectors identify and secure the remaining high-grade era examples, the opportunity disappears. Values don't rise because everyone joins in up, they rise because only a few act early. That's how rare coin wealth has always worked. Picture this for a moment: a professional appraisal, a phone call, a pause, and then the words, "You're not going to believe this." That's not fantasy. That's documented reality for people who took the time to look. And the lifestyle shift that follows: freedom, security, legacy, the ability to live well and pass something meaningful forward. So here's the real question: are you willing to let history repeat itself without you? Or will you be the one who checked, verified, and stepped onto opportunity while others laughed it off? Because sometimes, wealth doesn't announce itself loudly. Sometimes as a broken bar it whispers from the smallest places. Imagine this for a moment. You're holding a simple quarter, the same kind you've dropped into a parking meter, tossed into a tip jar, or ignored as the bottom of a drawer. Now imagine that quarter quietly being worth up to $956,000. Not someday, not in theory, but right now, in today's market. And here's the uncomfortable question most people never ask themselves as a broken bar: what if you already owned one and didn't know it? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you may look at your spare change very differently, and missing this could be the most expensive mistake you ever make. This is not a fairy tale. This is the real story of the 2001 Kentucky State Quarter, a coin minted in plain sight, circulated by the millions, and dismissed by almost everyone. Almost, because hidden among ordinary examples is a rare error variant that has electrified serious collectors and high-end buyers, the kind of buyers who don't negotiate a broken bar, they compete, and when they compete, prices explode. Before you dismiss this as hype, let me ask you something: when was the last time life-changing money came with a warning label? Exactly. It doesn't. It slips quietly into your pocket and waits for someone smart enough to notice. The Kentucky Quarter was released as part of the wildly popular 50 State Quarters program. People saved them, spent them, ignored them. But behind the scenes, something went wrong at the mint. And in the world of rare coins, wrong often means worth a fortune. Now here's where things get interesting and a little dangerous for anyone who isn't paying attention. Certain 2001 Kentucky quarters were struck with dramatic minting errors. Errors so rare and visually distinct that collectors classify them as elite tier assets, not just coins. We're talking about misaligned dies, doubled elements, and strike anomalies that were never supposed to leave the mint, yet they did. And once they entered circulation, they became ghosts hiding in plain sight. Here's the irony: the majority of people who had these coins a broken bar spent them, bought coffee, paid tolls, dropped them into vending machines. If that doesn't make you pause for a second, it should, because every year that passes, fewer of these error coins remain. Scarcity increases, demand accelerates, prices rise. This is how six-figure and seven-figure valuations are born. And yes, the current market has recorded valuations approaching $956,000 for top condition examples with verified errors. Let that number sit for a second. That's not extra cash. That's a lifestyle shift. That's freedom. That's legacy money. Quick pattern interrupt: to be honest, if a stranger told you a quarter could be worth nearly $1 million, you'd laugh a broken bar right up until your bank account stopped laughing with you. The reason these coins are in such high demand is simple: wealthy collectors are running out of opportunities. Fine art is saturated, real estate is competitive, but rare American coinage with documented mint errors, that market is exploding quietly, strategically, and aggressively. And Kentucky error quarters sit right in the crosshairs. But here's the twist most people never see coming: not all errors are equal. And one specific variation and one detail almost nobody checks is the difference between a $25 novelty and a life-altering asset. Miss this detail, and you miss everything. I'll reveal why that detail matters in just a moment. Let's talk psychology for a second. Why do people miss opportunities like this? Fear. Fear of being wrong. Fear of hoping. Fear of checking and being disappointed. Ironically, that fear costs more than ignorance ever could. Because the people winning in this market aren't guessing. They're verifying. They're acting. The 2001 Kentucky quarter-era coins that command premium prices share three powerful traits: authenticity, rarity, and demand. When all three align, value doesn't climb up, it launches. And here's the part that should create urgency for you. High net worth buyers are actively acquiring these coins now. Not later, not someday. Now. Every acquisition removes one more coin from the open market, driving prices even higher for the remaining few. Another quick reset question: what's riskier, checking your coins tonight, a broken bar, or realizing 5 years from now that you once owned something worth nearly $1 million and spent it on lunch? This is the moment in the story where everything changes. Because knowledge without action is just entertainment. And this isn't entertainment. This is a window, a narrow one. If you have old quarters, inherited collections, forgotten jars, or rolls tucked away just in case, that case might be now. The Kentucky quarter is no longer just a piece of historia, it's a financial instrument, a silent one, but a powerful one. And here's the final cliffhanger most people don't like hearing: the market doesn't wait for anyone to feel ready. Once awareness spreads too far, the opportunity contracts, prices stabilize, and the easy wins disappear. The people who benefit are the ones who moved early, quietly, and decisively. So tonight, when you hear coins clink or see a quarter resting on your table, remember this story. Remember that wealth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it whispers, sometimes it hides, and sometimes as a broken bar it looks exactly like something you've ignored your entire life. If this video sparked even a flicker of curiosity, don't ignore it. Curiosity is often intuition wearing a polite disguise. Check your coins. Respect their potential. Because the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is often just one overlooked detail. Imagine this. Somewhere in America, a single quarter sat quietly in a drawer for years, unnoticed, ignored, passed over like spare change. 25 cents. The kind you toss into a cup holder without a second thought. And today a broken bar, that same coin is commanding a market value of $765,000. Yay, so one quarter. Now pause for a second and ask yourself an uncomfortable question. What if you already own one and don't even know it? Because that's exactly how wealth slips through people's fingers, and not loudly, but silently. This is not a story about luck. This is a story about awareness, about timing, about recognizing value before the rest of the world catches up. Today, we're diving deep into the 2003 Arkansas State Quarter, a coin born in plain sight, yet powerful enough to transform an ordinary life into an extraordinary one. And if you think this sounds exaggerated, stay with me because the truth is far more exciting than fiction. Before we go any further, let me ask you something. When was the last time you really looked at a quarter? Not glanced at it, not spent it, but actually examined it. If your answer is I can't remember, congratulations, you're exactly where most future winners begin. In 2003, the United States Mint released the Arkansas State Quarter as part of the historic 50 State Quarters program. Millions were minted, millions were spent, millions were forgotten, but hidden among them was a microscopic mistake, an error so rare, so precise, and so powerful that it changed the destiny of a handful of these coins forever. This wasn't just any error. This was the kind collectors dream about and investors hunt relentlessly. A production anomaly that slipped past quality control, entered circulation, and quietly waited to be discovered. And when it was finally identified, the coin market reacted the way it always does to true rarity, with obsession. Here's where things get interesting. Serious collectors don't chase age alone. They chase scarcity, authenticity, and story. And this Arkansas quarter has all three. Verified error specimens have ignited bidding wars, driven private transactions, and pushed elite collectors to do something very revealing: a pay without hesitation. That's how values reach the $765,000 mark. Not speculation, demand. Now let me interrupt you for a second because I know what you're thinking. If it's that valuable, wouldn't everyone know about it by now? That's the trick. Most people are too busy spending money to realize when money is spending them. By the time something becomes common knowledge, the real opportunity is already gone. And here's a moment of humor. If quarters could talk, this one would probably be laughing right now. Laughing at how many people dismissed it as pocket change. There's a quiet fear that creeps in when people realize they may have overlooked something life-changing. That fear isn't negative, it's a signal. It's telling you to pay attention, because the people who win in this space aren't gamblers. They're observers. They're decisive. They understand that wealth doesn't always arrive as a paycheck, or sometimes it arrives disguised as metal in history. Right now, collectors across the United States are actively searching for this coin, not casually or aggressively. Auction houses are fielding inquiries. Private buyers are positioning capital. The market is hot, focused, and unforgiving to hesitation. When coins like this surface, they don't wait for permission to appreciate. And let me reset your attention for a second with the simple question of: if someone offered you $765,000 for something you already owned, would you still call it just a hobby? Exactly. This is where many people freeze. They underestimate what they have. They wait too long. They tell themselves they'll check later, and later turns into never. Meanwhile, informed sellers are stepping into a different lifestyle entirely, one built on timing, confidence, and knowledge. Now imagine the shift, the moment of realization, the instant you understand that what's been sitting quietly in your possession isn't ordinary, it's elite. That realization changes how you see everything. It turns curiosity into purpose. It turns uncertainty into leverage. The Arkansas quarter era isn't just in demand, it's becoming symbolic. Symbolic of a larger truth, that hidden wealth favors those who act before the crowd. As more sellers become aware, the competition tightens, buyers grow more aggressive, and the window narrows. Here's the cliffhanger most people don't see coming: the biggest gains in coin history don't happen after the headlines. They happen right before. Right now is that moment. The calm before this market story becomes mainstream dinner table conversation. And no, this isn't about greed. It's about alignment, about stepping into the reality that wealth is often closer than we think, about choosing not to dismiss opportunity just because it doesn't arrive in flashy packaging. So here's the final question: what if the difference between your current lifestyle and a radically upgraded one is already in your possession? Not next year, not someday, today. Imagine reaching into an ordinary drawer, the kind filled with spare change, old keys, and forgotten memories, a broken bar, and pulling out something that could quietly be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now pause for a second and ask yourself, what if the most valuable asset you'll ever own is already sitting in your home, unnoticed, underestimated, and dangerously close to being spent for face value? Today, we're entering the high-stakes world of the 2004 Texas state quarter dollar, a coin that has stunned collectors, shaken the market, and sparked whispers of values soaring as high as $888,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. And before you laugh and think, it's just a quarter, remember, history has a habit of hiding fortunes in plain sight. This story doesn't begin in a vault or a museum. It begins in 2004, when millions of Americans casually received a Texas quarter in their change, featuring the proud Lone Star in bold state outline. Nothing seemed unusual. No alarms rang. No headlines warned the public. And that's exactly why this coin is so dangerous to ignore today. Because while most were spent on coffee or tossed into jars, a microscopic number slipped through the system with rare minting errors so significant that they transformed a 25-cent coin into a symbol of sudden wealth. Here's the chilling question: what if you already owned one and never knew it? And let me ask you something: if someone offered you a winning lottery ticket, would you throw it away without checking the numbers? Of course not. Yet that's exactly what many people are doing with these quarters every single day. Now this is where the story takes a sharp turn, because the 2004 Texas quarter isn't valuable because it's old. It's valuable because perfection failed. In the world of elite coin collecting, errors are not mistakes, they are miracles. Certain Texas quarters left the U.S. Mint with dramatic flaws, off-metal strikes, double dies, missing layers, and alignment errors so rare that seasoned collectors describe them as once-in-a-lifetime finds. These are not cosmetic works. These are documented anomalies that ignite bidding wars among high-end buyers who think in portfolios, not pocket change. Here's the part most people don't realize, and this is important. When one of these rare Texas error quarters appears at auction, the room doesn't stay quiet. Phones come out, dealers lean forward, private collectors start calculating how badly they want to win. Because owning one of these coins isn't just about money, it's about status, timing, and power. It's about being the person who saw value when others saw nothing. And according to recent market buzz and headline-making listings, exceptional specimens of this coin have been associated with valuations approaching the $888,000 mark, not because of hype but because demand has exploded while supply remains brutally limited. Now here's a quick reset to be honest. How many quarters have passed through your hands in the last 20 years? Thousands? Tens of thousands? And how many did you actually examine? Exactly. That uneasy feeling you're sensing right now, that's not imagination. That's urgency waking up. As more Americans reach retirement age, there's a powerful shift happening. People are liquidating assets, downsizing, and searching for smart exits. Coin collectors with deep pockets know this. They're hunting quietly, aggressively, and globally. The Texas quarter, especially rarer versions, has become one of the most talked about modern U.S. coins in private circles. And here's the cliffhanger: most of the finest examples haven't even been discovered yet. What makes this moment especially critical is timing. Markets move in waves, and we are in a wave right now. Wealthy buyers are repositioning into the tangible assets. Coins with verified rarity are outperforming expectations. And the Texas quarter carries something unique: emotional resonance. Texas represents independence, strength, and identity. That symbolism adds fuel to the fire. When emotion meets scarcity, prices don't rise, they leap. Let me break the tension with a quick thought. If quarters could talk, this one would probably whisper, "You should have looked closer." Funny, yes, but painfully true. Because while people wait for permission to believe, others are already cashing out. Here's where fear quietly steps in. Fear of missing out, fear of selling too late, fear of never knowing what you had. The collectors who are winning right now are not gamblers. They're informed, decisive, and fast. And the sellers who benefit the most are those who act before the market becomes saturated with awareness. Once everyone knows, the advantage disappears. Now we arrive at the turning point of the moment where stories change. This is not about fantasy. This is about responsibility. If you are between 30 and 65, living in the United States, and you've handled coins for decades, you owe it to yourself to look again. Check your 2004 Texas quarters. Examine the weight, the strike, the edges, the details, because the difference between ordinary and extraordinary can be invisible at first glance and life-changing once confirmed. And here's the empowering truth: you don't need to be a collector to profit like one. You only need awareness and action. Professional grading services exist for this reason. Reputable buyers are actively searching. The demand is real, the money is serious, and the window is open, but it won't stay that way forever. Markets reward the bold, not the hesitant. Picture this for a moment. A single decision leads to a professional evaluation. That evaluation leads to validation. That validation leads to offers. And suddenly, a coin you never thought twice about becomes leverage, freedom, security, lifestyle, not luck, alignment. So before you scroll away, before you forget this moment, ask yourself one final question. If there's even a chance, just a chance, that something you already own could change your financial future, a broken bar, wouldn't it be reckless not to look? What if I told you that a single quarter, yes, the same 25-cent coin you've probably tossed into a jar, a drawer, or even a vending machine, they could quietly be worth up to $945,000 today? Not a gold bar, not a stock certificate, a quarter. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you may look at your pocket change very differently. A broken bar, and you might already be sitting on a life-changing asset without knowing it. This is not a fantasy, not internet hype, and definitely not luck-based gambling. This is the true story of the 2005 West Virginia State Quarter, a coin released into everyday circulation, hiding in plain sight, while a tiny group of informed collectors and sellers quietly cashed in. And here's the part that creates urgency. Most people who own this coin spent it before they ever realized its value. Don't let that be you. Picture this for a moment. It's 2005. The U.S. Mint releases the West Virginia Quarter as part of the wildly popular 50-state quarters program. Millions of Americans handle it. Millions ignore it. But a microscopic number of these coins leave the mint with critical errors, the kind of errors that transform pocket change into museum-level collectibles. And today, those errors are fueling bidding wars, private sales, and headline-grabbing valuations. Quick question: have you ever laughed at someone checking coins with a magnifying glass? Be honest. Funny how laughter changes when the number $945,000 enters the conversation. This video is for serious thinkers, for men and women between 30 and 65 who understand that wealth often hides where others don't look. If you've ever dreamed of selling one coin and upgrading your lifestyle, paying off a home, securing your retirement, or simply gaining financial freedom, you're exactly where you need to be. The 2005 West Virginia Quarter depicts the New River Gorge Bridge, a proud symbol of engineering and history. But the real story isn't what's visible at first glance. The real story lies in what shouldn't be there: broken bar or what's missing entirely. Certain West Virginia quarters were struck with dramatic minting errors, errors so rare that experts consider them once-in-a-generation finds. We're talking about double dies, off-metal strikes, misaligned designs, and catastrophic plankett errors that escaped quality control. These are not small scratches, these are unmistakable, high-impact errors that redefine the coin's identity. Here's where excitement kicks in. The rarest examples were discovered years later by everyday people, retirees, homeowners, casual collectors, who simply decided to look twice. One such coin ignited intense competition among elite collectors, eventually pushing its valuation toward the $945,000 mark due to its condition, rarity, and verified mint error pedigree. Now pause for a second. Ask yourself this uncomfortable question: how many coins have passed through your hands since 2005? Thousands? Tens of thousands? Exactly. The market today is hotter than ever. Why? Because elite collectors, investment funds, and private buyers are aggressively hunting tangible assets. Coins with documented errors are immune to inflation in ways paper money never will be. When markets shake, rare coins don't panic, they appreciate. And here's the cliffhanger most people miss. Experts believe that more rarer West Virginia quarters still exist, unrecognized, sitting in collections, drawers, and safety deposit boxes across the country. The supply is shrinking, not growing. Every year that passes without discovery pushes demand higher and prices upward. Let me add a touch of humor here, because it matters. Somewhere out there, someone once bought a coffee with a coin that could have bought the cafe. Copyright. Don't be that legend. Collectors are no longer just collectors. They're investors, and investors move fast. As grading standards tighten and authentication becomes more precise, verified error coins are being locked into long-term collections. Once that happens, they disappear from the market forever. That's why urgency matters right now, not next year, not someday. And here's the transition most people don't expect. Owning the coin is only half the equation. Knowing how and when to sell it is where wealth is created. Imagine the moment you identify the coin, you confirm the error, you hold a verified piece of American history in your hand, not just metal, but leverage. That's the moment fear and excitement collide. Fear of missing the opportunity, excitement about what comes next. The people who succeed in this market are decisive. They understand that rare coins don't beg for attention, they reward preparation. Today's top buyers are paying premiums for authenticated, high-grade West Virginia quarter errors because they know what most people don't. These coins are disappearing into private vaults, Let's be very clear and very positive. This is not about gambling or speculation. This is about recognizing value where others see nothing. This is about converting overlooked history into generational wealth. It's about stepping into a higher level of financial awareness. The final cliffhanger is this: somewhere in your home, or in the home of someone you know, there may be a 2005 West Virginia quarter with an extraordinary error, waiting for recognition, waiting for action, waiting for the right owner to realize its worth. Right now, buyers are ready, demand is strong, prices are commanding attention, and knowledge is your advantage. Whether you're looking to sell, invest, or simply protect what you own, the moment you start paying attention is the moment everything changes. So the next time you see a quarter, don't see 25 cents. See possibility, see power, see potential wealth hiding in plain sight. Because sometimes, the smallest things carry the biggest value, and the smartest people are the ones who notice before everyone else does. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a small silver coin is sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, maybe even in your pocket, a broken bar, and its potential value is whispered in numbers that don't feel real. Not hundreds, not thousands, but hundreds of thousands of dollars. What if I told you that a single 2013 America the Beautiful Fort McHenry quarter, yes, a quarter, has stunned the coin world with a reported market value approaching $789,000. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you may look at your spare change very differently, a broken bar, and possibly discover that wealth has been hiding in plain sight. Act 1 begins with a truth most people ignore. History does not always announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes, it whispers through metal. The 2013 Fort McHenry quarter was released as part of the America the Beautiful series, celebrating a symbol of victory, resilience, and national pride. Millions were minted, passed from hand to hand, spent without a second glance. And that's where the danger lies, because when everyone assumes something is ordinary, that's when extraordinary opportunities slip through unnoticed. Here's a question that should make you pause. How many coins have passed through your hands that you never truly looked at? Be honest. Don't worry, you're not alone. Most people treat quarters like coffee change. Collectors treat them like buried treasure. Now let's talk about what transformed this particular 2013 Fort McHenry quarter from pocket change into a headline-making phenomenon. Errors. Mint errors are the heartbeat of serious coin wealth. They are accidents frozen in time, never meant to exist, and impossible to recreate. On certain 2013 Fort McHenry quarters, experts have identified dramatic anomalies struck through errors, doubled dies, off-metal strikes, and extreme misalignments that defy normal minting standards. These are not minor imperfections. These are bold, unmistakable signatures of rarity, the kind that make seasoned collectors lean forward, not back. The kind that make auction rooms go silent before a bidding war erupts. And yes, this is where the numbers start to feel uncomfortably broken bar in a good way. Here's where excitement meets disbelief. When one of those high-grade error examples surfaced, authenticated and encapsulated, the valuation shook the market. Suddenly, the conversation wasn't about cents or even thousands. It was about life-changing money. The kind of money that pays off homes, funds retirements, reshapes legacies. $789,000 is not just a price tag. It's a statement. It says that rarity still wins. It says that knowledge still pays. And it says that the people who act early, not late, are the ones who benefit most. Let me ask you something slightly uncomfortable but necessary. If you owned a coin worth that kind of money, would you even know it? Act 2 takes us into the psychology of the market. And this is where urgency quietly tightens its grip. The demand for rare U.S. coinage has surged, especially among affluent collectors who are shifting wealth into tangible assets. Coins don't crash like stocks. They don't disappear like digital numbers. They sit, they endure, and when a verified rarity enters the market, buyers don't negotiate emotionally, they compete. That's why these Fort McHenry error quarters are not staying available for long. Every year, more are lost, damaged, or spent by people who never realized what they held. Supply shrinks, demand intensifies, prices don't politely rise, they jump. Now for a quick pattern interrupt. Because attention matters. Ready? If quarters were boring, casinos would hand out dollar bills instead. Think about that. Coins carry history, psychology, and scarcity in a way paper never can. And serious collectors know this. They're not hunting casually, they're hunting aggressively. Which brings us to a cliffhanger moment that most people miss. The difference between a quarter worth face value and one worth hundreds of thousands often comes down to a detail smaller than a grain of rice. One strike, one layer, one misalignment. Blink, and you miss it. Ignore it, and you spend a fortune by accident. As we move deeper, Act 3 reveals the real power shift to ownership versus awareness. The wealthy don't just own assets, they understand them. If you are holding a 2013 Fort McHenry quarter, especially one that looks unusual, heavier, off-center, or visually wrong, you are standing at the crossroads. One path leads to spending it without thought, the other leads to professional authentication, market exposure, and serious financial conversations. And here's the part no one likes to say out loud. Hesitation is the enemy of profit. The market rewards those who act while others are still doubting. Right now, collectors are paying premiums because verified examples are vanishing. Picture the moment someone realizes what they have. The pause, the disbelief, the rush of excitement mixed with fear. Fear of missing the window, fear of being too late, fear of having already spent something priceless. That emotional cocktail is exactly why this market is moving fast, and it's why you should not wait for someday to take action. Someday is where opportunities go to die. Today is where fortunes begin. And yes, this is still about a quarter. That's the most shocking part. Before we close, here's one final cliffhanger to carry with you. Somewhere, someone watching this video right now owns a coin that could redefine their financial future, and they don't know it yet. Will that person be you, or will it be the next person who checks their change, recognizes an anomaly, and acts decisively? Victory favors the prepared. Just like Fort McHenry itself, history doesn't reward those who watch from the sidelines. It rewards those who recognize value when it appears ordinary. So take a moment, look again, because the next time you hear a quarter hit the table, it might not be spare change, it might be opportunity calling. What if I told you that a single coin, one you could overlook without a second glance, might be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars today? Not buried treasure, not a gold bar, a quarter, yes, at 25 cents. Stay with me, because before this video ends, you may feel an uncomfortable urge to check your drawers, your jars, even that old coffee can in the garage you haven't opened since 2016. This is the story of the 2016 Cumberland Gap quarter dollar, a modern U.S. coin that under the right circumstances has stunned collectors, shocked dealers, and quietly changed lives. Now here's the twist that most people miss. This coin was never meant to be rare. It was minted as part of the America the Beautiful series, released into everyday circulation. Millions were struck. You could have received one at a gas station, a grocery store, or as change for a cup of coffee. And that's exactly why fear should be creeping in right now. Because history shows us something uncomfortable. The most valuable coins are often the ones people ignore at first. Lincoln pennies, Buffalo nickels, error quarters, coins people spent a broken bar instead of saved. And today, collectors are asking a bold question. Did you already let a fortune slip through your fingers, or is it still waiting for you? Picture this for a moment. It's 2016, you're holding a Cumberland Gap quarter. George Washington on the front, a powerful frontier scene on the reverse. Nothing screams treasure. You toss it aside. But somewhere in that same year, a minting anomaly occurs, an error so precise, so rare, that it transforms an ordinary quarter into a high-demand collector asset. And here's the cliffhanger that should keep you watching. Most owners still don't know what they're holding. Let's talk about what separates pocket change from portfolio material. In the elite world of coin collecting, errors are king. Not damage, not wear. True mint errors are misaligned strikes, double dies, off-metal placates of mistakes made inside the U.S. Mint itself. And when those errors slip past quality control, that's when collectors pay attention. That's when serious money enters the conversation. And the 2016 Cumberland Gap quarter sits squarely in that conversation today. Recent high-end private sales and whispered auction valuations have placed top-tier era examples of this coin at figures reaching $789,000. Let that number sink in. That's not retirement money, that's lifestyle money. The kind of money that changes how you wake up in the morning. The kind that makes people ask, "What else am I sitting on?" And before you laugh and say, "Come on, it's just a quarter," remember people once laughed at Bitcoin, too. Humor break here. Imagine explaining to your spouse that the quarter they almost spent on parking just paid for the car. Awkward or broken bar, but delightful. Now here's where urgency enters the room. The market is not asleep. Professional collectors, grading services, and private buyers are actively hunting for uncertified example-issa coins still hiding in the wild. Why? Because once a coin is publicly graded and locked away, competition intensifies and access disappears. Right now, demand is fueled by scarcity, secrecy, and timing. And timing, my friend, is everything. This is the phase where quiet sellers win and late sellers watch headlines instead of profits. But here's the next cliffhanger, because not every Cumberland Gap quarter qualifies. The value explosion lives in the details. Subtle differences, microscopic clues, the kind you don't notice until you know exactly what to look for. And in just a moment, you'll understand why knowledge and not luck is the true currency here. Here's the truth most people never hear. Wealth often comes not from chasing new opportunities, but from recognizing the value of what you already own. If you are between 30 and 65, living in the United States, there's a strong chance you handled these coins personally. You didn't inherit them from the 1800s. You didn't need a time machine. You were there. And that's powerful, because unlike ancient rarities locked in museums, this story still has living participants, including you. Collectors are paying premiums today because the supply of undiscovered era coins is shrinking fast. Every month, more are pulled from circulation, graded, and sealed away. That window, the one where everyday Americans can still step into extraordinary value, is closing. Not tomorrow, not someday, now. And here's the emotional truth. Regret in the coin world doesn't come from selling too early, it comes from realizing too late what you had. So ask yourself this question and don't answer it lightly. If a single quarter could represent freedom, security, or the beginning of a wealthy lifestyle, broken bar, would you want to know before it's gone? Or would you rather scroll past and hope you weren't one of the lucky ones? Because somewhere, someone is discovering this coin today. Somewhere else, someone already sold it for life-changing money. And somewhere else, a broken bar, someone is still carrying it in their pocket, unaware. What if I told you that a single coin, sitting unnoticed in a drawer, a jar, or a forgotten collection, could be worth more than a luxury home? What if I told you that one ordinary-looking quarter at the 2016 Theodore Roosevelt quarter dollar has been quietly moving through the market at values as high as $777,000? Before you dismiss that as impossible, let me ask you something uncomfortable. How many coins have you spent without looking at them today? And how many fortunes have disappeared the same way? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear could permanently change the way you see money in your hands. This is not a story about luck. This is a story about awareness, timing, and rare moments when history leaves a hidden door open, but only briefly. In 2016, the United States Mint released the Theodore Roosevelt National Park Quarter as part of the America the Beautiful series. Millions were minted, most were spent, most were ignored, but a microscopic number escaped the mint with something collectors call controlled chaos. A minting error is so rare, so precise, and so valuable that elite buyers now compete aggressively for them behind closed doors. And that's where this story truly begins. Act 1 is about invisibility, because the most powerful opportunities rarely announce themselves. The Roosevelt quarter looks ordinary at first glance. Strong portrait, rugged expression, a president associated with strength, reform, and wealth creation. Ironically fitting. But certain era versions of this coin were born from mechanical shifts, die instability, and metal flow anomalies that occurred during short production windows. These errors were not corrected immediately, they slipped into circulation, and today, many of them may still be hiding in plain sight. Think about that for a moment. The idea that something extraordinary can look completely ordinary is not just true in coin collecting, it's true in life. Now here's where fear enters the equation, because while you're watching this video, collectors, dealers, and private investors are actively removing these coins from the market. Each one discovered increases scarcity, each one graded raises the bar, and once they are locked into vaults and private collections, the door closes permanently. That uncomfortable feeling in your chest right now, that's your intuition reminding you that delay has a cost. And in this market, hesitation is expensive. But let's shift gears, because Act 2 is where excitement takes over. This is where possibility becomes real. Certain 2016 Theodore Roosevelt quarters have been confirmed with dramatic mint errors, a double die obverses that cause visible doubling in the lettering and portrait, off-center strikes that expose raw metal edges, wrong planchet errors that alter weight and composition, and rare die breaks that create raised metal features never intended to exist. When these errors appear together, or appear in exceptionally preserved condition, the value escalates rapidly. We're not talking hundreds, we're not talking thousands, we're talking serious, life-altering money. And yes, the number you heard earlier, $777,000, is not fantasy. That valuation exists at the top tier of the error coin market, where rarity, condition, demand, and historical timing intersect. These coins do not sell on eBay, they move through private negotiations, elite auction houses, and investor-driven networks, the kind of places where silence is currency and patience is power, the kind of places where wealth quietly changes hands. Let me interrupt for just a second with a question that might make you smile. If someone handed you a quarter right now and said, "This might be worth more than your retirement account," would you laugh a broken bar or would you look twice? Because that moment, the second look, is the difference between people who tell stories and people who live them. Now here's the cliffhanger most people miss. Not every error coin is valuable, but every valuable error coin looks like nothing special to the untrained eye. That's why so many fortunes are accidentally spent at gas stations, coffee shops, and vending machines. And that's why knowledge, not luck, is the real asset here. The collectors making the most money are not guessing. They are inspecting, they are verifying, they are acting before the crowd realizes what's happening. Act 3 is where urgency meets empowerment, because the market for rare US error coins is not slowing down, it's accelerating. As inflation reshapes how Americans think about money, tangible assets with historical significance are becoming magnets for capital. Coins like the 2016 Theodore Roosevelt quarter sit at the intersection of history, scarcity, and narrative power. And narrative matters. Roosevelt symbolizes strength, ambition, and expansion. Values investors instinctively trust. That emotional association fuels demand, and demand fuels price. Here's the part most videos won't tell you. The window for discovery is closing, not because the coins are disappearing, but because awareness is spreading. The more people look, the fewer remain unseen. And once grading populations reach certain thresholds, prices don't rise gradually, they jump suddenly, without warning. That's how markets move when supply collapses under pressure. Imagine discovering that the coin you've owned for years qualifies for professional grading. Imagine receiving that slab back, authenticated, encapsulated, validated. Imagine the moment you realize you're no longer holding spare change, you're holding leverage. That moment is intoxicating, and it's closer than you think. But let me leave you with one final thought, and this is where the story comes full circle. Wealth rarely arrives loudly, it whispers, it hides in overlooked places, it rewards those willing to slow down, pay attention, and act decisively when others hesitate. The 2016 Theodore Roosevelt quarter is not just a coin, it's a reminder that opportunity still exists in the physical world, tangible, measurable, and waiting to be recognized. So before you spend another quarter, before you dismiss another old coin, before you assume the best opportunities are already gone, Pause. Look again, because the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is often no more than a millimeter of metal, a broken bar, and the courage to take a second look. And if you're still watching right now, that tells me something important about you. You're not here by accident. You're here because you understand that wealth favors the prepared. And tease a broken bar. This may be your moment.